Hi, everyone. My name is Divya, and thank you so much for joining. This is week 5 of my Koshas, an exploration of the self series. And every week we've been talking about a different kosha. There's 5 in total. So koshas are sheaths within us that successively encase one another and ultimately contain our sort of boundless eternal spirit, known as the soul or Atman. And there are 5 different koshas. So we started by covering the Anandamaya kosha, which is the physical layer made up of the food that we eat. And then there's the pranamaya layer, which is sort of our life force layer, which is manifested as the breath in the human body. Then we have the manomaya layer, which is our sort of sensory driven layer. So we have our physical touch, our smell, our ability to be sentient. It's sort of all the layers of consciousness in terms of our how we experience it with our physical body. And then next we had the Vijnanamaya layer, which is our wisdom and our intellect. So it's another form of identity, but this is a little bit more, it's closer to the ego, closer to the self and how we perceive ourselves as an I. And this week we are covering Anandamaya layer, which is our blissful layer. So each week we've covered different koshas and we've sort of contemplated on them, asked questions as we meditated to tap into what that layer of ourself feels like. And because some are more tangible, some are more part of the causal body, and some are more part of the sort of spiritual and intangible body, we can't always immediately just tap in and out of these layers. Sometimes it's about just understanding what that layer is so that we can work towards being aware of it or stimulate other parts of ourselves that can tap into that layer. So this week, Anandamaya kosha that we're covering, this is the 5th layer itself, also known as the last layer. In different schools of thought, it's considered in different ways. Some people consider this last layer, the Anandamaya kosha, to be containing the Atman, to sort of be equanimous with the Atman. Other schools of thought say that it is a layer that is containing the Atman. So the Atman sits inside of this layer and is separate from it. So take it how you will. The way that I'm going to talk about it today is that it's sort of encompassing this, and then you can interpret that however you will. So the Anandamaya layer, Ananda literally translates to bliss in Sanskrit. And this layer is defined by a sort of supreme bliss. And we can often experience the state, or it's said that the state can be experienced when you reach the state of Samādhi, also known as enlightenment or the 8th limb of yoga. And Samādhi is also a different elevated state of consciousness. So as you are awakening yourself, so to speak, you can kind of pass through different layers of yourself. And it's not necessarily that we're sort of equally divided into these different layers like an actual onion. It's more that these different layers of ourselves would sometimes go outside of the realm of the body itself, are just made up of different things. So on the Maya layer, our blissful layer, while it's within us, it's also outside of us and around us. So when we connect with this on the Maya layer, we're able to sort of become one with that which is around us. So everyone has this in them. And it's also said that the pure consciousness, the supreme consciousness, is made up of this. So when we tap into it on ourselves, we are innately making that connection with everything outside of us as well. And the interesting part is it's said that we actually access this layer on a daily basis, which is pretty interesting to think about, that such a profound level of ourselves is visited every single day. The catch is that it happens when we are in a deep sleep, so we're not aware that it's happening. And that's because there are certain barriers to us accessing this layer as human beings. We have our senses, our physical senses, which are constantly sort of, I guess, policing what we can experience. And then we have our mind, which is always chattering at us and telling us, confusing us as to what's real and what's not real. So only when these two entities are quiet and still can this layer be felt and even sensed. And at this time, our self sort of descends, if you will, into a limitless void, coming from nothing, going into nothing, one with nothing and everything. And this is when we are achieving that unity with pure consciousness, that pure soulful bliss. So beyond this sense, the sensation is where we can tap into our Atman, our soul. And it's said that Anandamaya layer houses this Atman, which has experienced all of our previous lives. So it is a sum of our karma, which is just sort of like for a lack of a better metaphor, a scorecard of all of the lives that we've lived in the past, all of the actions and deeds that we've done, good and bad, and sort of just where we're at now. So all of that is housed within that supreme knowledge, that wisdom that is like deeply ingrained in us on every single level. So when they say you can feel this on a cellular level, it's because it permeates our body, it permeates our self, our physical self. So this is a little bit just more on the spiritual side. If we tap into our Anandamaya layer, we are awakening to the fact that we are one with this divine power, or whatever this power is that has created the universe, that has made everything around us possible to experience. We are disintegrating the physical limitations of the self and saying, you know what, I realize that I am one of many, and that I am one of one, because it's all the same. So that being said, today we're going to have a very still meditation, because I want us to try and sink into a sort of waking deep sleep state, because I don't actually want anyone to fall asleep. But we're going to try to get into that state where our mind is quiet and still, and when our senses are quiet and still, the same way it is in deep sleep. So kind of priming ourselves to have the right conditions to experience this. So go ahead and take a nice comfortable seat. You can get into Sukhasana, easy pose, simple, in and out, cross your ankles, have your knees come out wide, sit up nice and tall, ground down through the root of your spine like an anchor, and from there draw the rib cage up and out of the hips like an elevator, extending the spine as you go, unfurling all the way up to the top of your head. And one more little tip here, unfurling, when I say all the way to the top of your head, it's actually not necessarily helpful to lift your chin upwards. So let's tuck the chin down into the chest, and at the same time lift the chin up slightly into the chest. And this allows the back of our neck to actually relax and get a little bit taller. And we also tap into our Jalandhara Bandha, which is known as the chin bind, a sort of energetic hold in the body that allows us to retain that awareness in our higher consciousness, good for meditation. So let's go ahead and seal the lips and start drawing the breath in and out through the nostrils, slowly and deeply, using the sound of the breath almost like a meditative assistance, slipping in and out of the sound. Make the breath loud if you would like to. And today we're going to practice what's known as Udana Vayu Mudra, also known as upward flowing mudra, or Hansi mudra, which is meaning the face of a swan. So to do this, starting with your hand open wide, you can do this with both hands. You're going to bend the tip of all three middle fingers, so your pointer finger, your middle finger, and your ring finger. You're going to touch the tips of those fingers to the tip of your thumb and leave your pinky pressed upright so that it looks like this from the front and like this from the side. You can go ahead and do that with both hands. And this one is great for boosting our respiratory, power. It's really great for clearing the throat and the lungs, and giving us energy and increasing our communication. It's also known as the joy and laughter mudra. So it awakens that sense of joy and pure bliss within us, which is why we're doing it today. So go ahead and settle in. You can let your eyes come to a close or just flutter them down towards the ground. Let's find a happy medium between a restful and a wakeful state. So let the mind melt away. Let your senses start to dull, but stay alert. Keep your awareness. If you like, you can take a gentle smile. So now, one by one, let's start to acknowledge and take stock of our senses and how you're perceiving them. What do you feel? What do you smell? What can you hear? Now think, what can you afford to tune out? Just naturally let them dull down. Focus on the breath. Let everything else soften and dull. Let the noise and the sound of your breath guide you, becoming louder and louder. Until it's just a constant hum in the background while you get lost within. Ease the breath. Let it be still and easy and effortless. Notice what's coming up for you. Maybe a mental checklist. Maybe you're subconsciously planning for a preparation for a presentation tomorrow. Or maybe you're recounting a conversation that you had last week. Perhaps you're reevaluating something you said, or subconsciously planning a project or an activity. Just notice what's coming up for you. Now, keep only what you need and let the rest go. Sink in, settle in, and just ask, what is any of this in context with the connection that you have to your awareness of who you are, of what you are? Let me say that again. What are any of these thoughts and situations in context with your understanding of who you are and what you are? You don't need to decipher this, but just contemplate. Shift, focus, and clear. Let's rinse and repeat that. Shift, focus, and clear. Sink in, settle in. Drift into a deeper consciousness. slowly start to come back into your body. Try not to move, but instead move your mind through your body, your consciousness, awakening your senses as you go. Imagining your breath as a little white ball of light. Track it and trail it as it moves through the body, illuminating small spaces as it goes, but bringing with it so much awareness. Start to feel the points where your body connects with the earth. Start to sense the weight of the muscles hanging off the bones. Feel the air where it touches your skin. Feel the quality of the breath, the temperature, the intensity, the length. Maybe slowly start to wiggle your fingers and toes, or tap each finger to your thumb. Release your hands. Maybe roll the head side to side, front to back. And finally come to stillness and flutter the eyes open. Sit up nice and tall, take a deep breath, roll the shoulders back. And that concludes today's meditation. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you for joining this 5-week series on the Koshas. It's been really lovely to explore these layers of the self with all of you. We're all kind of experiencing this together over the past month. So yeah, thank you for joining. I hope that you found this valuable, and I hope that these techniques and this knowledge is something you can come back to frequently when you, it's very easy as just, people, as human beings, to get lost in our everyday presence and our very innate humanness as we, go through life and deal with new situations and evolve as people. But it's helpful to specifically focus on these koshas that remind us of how much more we are than what our body provides us or what our life gives us. We are boundless, truly, boundless energy. So I hope that you can come back to this as often as you need. And I will see you next month for my new meditation series. Thanks, everyone.